when I say the word online education, what is the first thought which comes to your mind when I say online education?
It is going to eventually solve a lot of problems of India as a country. Everybody needs to understand that giving time to decision making and not rushing decision making is important.
And something which you failed at.
I've failed at multiple things, but while I've failed at a lot of these things, I've always looked at them as opportunities to call 12th fail. The movie uses the word restart, and I've been doing that all my life.
So Siddharth, thanks a lot for joining. I'm particularly excited about, so I did read a little bit about your journey, and I saw that very interesting journey that you had from an intern to a director, right? Would love to hear about that journey because it's always great to hear that, you joined as an intern and you today are a director there. I'm sure it must have been a very, very interesting journey. So if you could tell us a little about that journey, Siddharth, that'll be nice.
Right. So once I'd finished my engineering, my father was the director at DPS Varanasi, and while he was the director there, I joined in as an intern. I was working in the administrative side of things. I was working with the transport department. I was trying to figure out, the different areas of the school, trying and getting an understanding of how a school really functions, and on the way trying to solve small little problems on that journey. And it was a small stint for about 3 to 6 months, and from there I went on to do my masters in management in Glasgow Strathclyde University. While I was there, I had because of this small stint in at DPS Varanasi, I had actually figured out that I want to work in the schooling space. I want to do something in that space, and my entire education in management was keeping in mind that I want to go back and work in the schooling space. So my thesis also was, based on understanding how teachers' pay works, and what's the best thing to do there. And when I came back, we started the campus at DPS at Nashik, and I was heading the operations, administrative operations of that campus. And it was a very, very interesting journey for me when I started that campus. I started that campus as an administrator at the age of 24 with not a lot of experience. But as I evolved in that campus, I had a lot of questions, lot of concerns. Some things were working, some things were not working so well. And then I gradually moved from an administrative role to a core academic role. And I actually went on and pursued my master's in education. I went on and pursued a certification from Harvard Graduate School online. And I think that transformation for me was very, very interesting. And it really gave me a very good idea and a very good insight into how schools should be run and what is a high quality education.
So you did mention that that you got interested in schooling, that schooling as that you wanted to be part of that. So what was
Yeah.
it part of a school or the whole schooling process that attracted you so much that you felt that this is where you really need to be?
So, all of us, everybody goes through being a part of a school. Okay. And when we grow up, we all have ideas. Yeah, school should have this and not have this, and this is the right way, and this is not the right way, and it is all based on all our experiences. And I had also gone, to a boarding school, and a little different type of a school. I had gone to Chinmay International Residential School in Coimbatore, and I had a great experience there. And when I got in as an intern at DPS Varanasi, I was actually trying to explore some of those ideas that I had experienced as a school student.
Mhm.
And that got me really, really interested. And yeah, so that was the reason, because I think schooling is something that all of us have gone through and all of us have an opinion about it. So
Yes.
yeah.
So tell me a few things that you felt were, while in your schooling days, that this should be different than the way that it is being done, and that is a kind of a change that you brought in when you were there as an administrator, and you could bring in a change.
So while in schooling days, we'd always looked at that education or teaching or it's like or learning is actually the responsibility of either the educator or the teacher, right? It's not so much the responsibility of the student. The student is something jiske upar kaam ho raha hai, right? Is so I think that, and the student at that point of time when we were in school, we as students did not have a lot of voice in the decision making process.
Right.
The decisions were made and we were told about that this is going to happen. And I think that was also something that that led to students not feeling that their learning is their responsibility.
Mhm.
So that is something that I'm looking to really weave into my school systems now, wherein
Mhm.
we bring in a lot of voice and choice for the students. The
Mhm.
voice and choice essentially is missing because dialogue is missing.
Correct.
So dialogue is, because dialogue is time consuming. If you have to speak to a lot of people, get everybody to consensus and then take a decision, it's time consuming. And for any administrator, it's always easy to sit inside a room, talk to 2 3 people and then take a decision and communicate, right?
Correct.
But the first one, which is more of dialogue, that actually gives it the agency to the student that I have to work because this is a decision that I have been involved in. That I think was essentially missing earlier, and that is what I'm trying to bring in, that a lot of dialogue. I'm a big fan of Paulo Freire's work, and dialogue is something that I really look to bring in whatever we do at school.
And how do you bring in that dialogue? So just tell us something that you have initiated, which.
A very a very basic framework is, so I think everybody needs to understand that giving time to decision making and not rushing decision making is important. Making sure that, okay, if we are changing something in the school, say we are changing the school timing by 20 minutes, okay, and it's really important that we get everybody, all stakeholders for whom this decision is impactful, will change something for them. All of them have to come into a common room. All of them need to identify why this change is being proposed, why this change is needed, and all of them should have an opportunity to raise their concerns and felt
Understand.
heard. Right. So that I think was missing for a lot of schools, and that is what I feel is really important.
Oh, interesting, Siddharth. So that brings me to one more question, especially because we talk about the childhood and the schooling days and as a child or whatever. Um, as a child, as a student, of course, you come across many, career opportunities, and you're exposed to many career opportunities. What was it that you were planning to do as a child when you were a student? Uh, uh, were your aspirations similar to what you are doing today, or were there something different? Are you in the same process which you had thought of, or is it something entirely different from what you used to think as a student?
Great. So as a student, I never wanted to be in this kind of a role. I always wanted to be in a corporate IT sort of a role. And I
Mhm.
did that for about 10, 11 months. And I found zero connection in that.
Mhm.
And when I experienced the life at school as an adult at Varanasi, I think that was a big spark in my life where I felt that I want to come back to a schooling space, impact the lives of many, many children. Because I felt that I could connect to a lot of students, I could feel how they're feeling because I've gone through that same process very, very recently. And yeah, that really got me to school. So I'm absolutely not doing what I had thought of I would do as a student. I'm doing completely opposite. I'm actually doing something from which I was running away from,
Okay. Okay. Excellent. No,
and I'm
that's
really
yeah. And you're really enjoying it now. And I can see that you're really, really enjoying that. So tell me one more thing that at such a young age, you really have taken on so much responsibility, which is amazing. But with these responsibilities come a lot of tough situations, right? And I'm sure you must have faced a lot of tough situations. So I would like to know two kind of tough situations: a tough situation which you were able to navigate very well, and a tough situation which you could not navigate and you just could not manage and ultimately failed at it or whatever. So I want to know both sort of situations in your life.
I think so. My journey has been full of tough situations,
I'm sure.
and so like the first campus that we started in Nashik, and I was stationed there. We started the construction of that campus, I remember, on the 12th of September. And the campus was ready to go and welcome students on the 3rd of June. And it was a 60,000 square feet building. And I had no experience of construction, right? And I was in charge of that project there. But somehow things, and I did not literally, I would say, I did not do anything, but it just managed itself, and it was a big challenge. It managed itself, and probably Krishna came to help, and it just happened, right?
Excellent.
And that is what I see, that every situation, I'm trying to put in my best ability, whatever God has given me. And finally it is his work that I'm doing, and the outcome are his. It is not mine, so I leave that. And to my amazement, I see that things automatically work out.
Excellent. And something which you failed at.
I've failed at multiple things, but while I've failed at a lot of these things, I've always looked at them as opportunities to,
Correct.
improve. I've actually loved this movie called 12th Fail,
Yeah.
wherein, the movie uses the word restart, and I've been
Yes.
doing that all my life. Every time I fail, I look to restart.
Excellent.
So there have been multiple failure opportunities, and every time I've restarted. I think because of my mother, there's not a word in my dictionary wherein something cannot happen. I'm always looking to restart, and I'm always looking to get on with things and pick myself, and then leave the rest to Krishna.
I'm sure that that must be a great, a sort of a inspiration for the children that you lead today, and that you are leading their education and leading the development of their personality. That such kind of experience, and I really like the term failure opportunities. That's a amazing. It's a sort of an oxymoron in a way, but in a way, it's a very, very brilliant term that it's a failure opportunity and etc. So, tell me one more thing. I'm sure there must have been a moment of pride in your life, right? Whether as a child, whether as an adult, whether that you still date feel that that has been my biggest moment of pride in my your whether as a child or as a as a professional today, whichever part it might be. But that moment of pride, and why do you feel that that is? And it need not be completely professional. It could be a personal moment of pride as well. But would love to hear about that.
So something, I've uh, I, I do give a talk called the Tomato Story,
Mm-hmm.
and that is based on my personal life experiences of not being able to eat a raw tomato for about 28, 29 years in my life, and then the day I finally ate a raw tomato, and I was able to figure out that why did I not like eating
Uh,
raw tomatoes for those 28, 29 years.
uh,
And yeah, so I think that was a great it was like an inward journey that I was able to take and overcome my fear of eating raw tomatoes, and I think that was a moment of pride. Also, yeah, so, and in grade 12 I feel that I'd been admitted to DPS Vasant Kunj, and I was a new student there in grade 12th, did not know anybody. And we were playing football one day, and I'm not a good football player. I play a
mm,
lot of sports, but football is like not one of them.
mm,
But somehow I think what happened is from the corner of the field where you take the corner kick, I hit the ball and the ball just zoomed into the goal post, right?
that's okay.
and and it was like the first few days in that school, and my entire grade 12th was on that field that day. So that kick actually took me from a nobody to a somebody, and people actually came, wanted to know who I was, whether I was really good at football. And I think that was a moment that I still remember, because it led to a lot of, so I was feeling very alone in that school for a for, because I was, everybody had their own group, social circles,
Mm,
and I'd
mm.
gone in grade 12th as a fresh new student, right? That kick actually changed a lot of things for me in that year, and I think that has stayed with me also.
It actually kick-started your social life, huh?
Probably. Yes.
Yes, interesting. No, and I also want to check. This is a very interesting story about your raw tomatoes. So, did you figure out why did you have a fear of raw tomatoes?
So yeah, so this is from my inward journey of Vipassana that I figured out that whenever something happens, we remember how we feel in that situation. Okay, and in our subconscious mind, we remember the situation. Okay, but in our conscious mind, we only remember the feeling. And somehow, what happens is over time, when we look at that, when we are in that same situation, we remember in our conscious mind the same feeling, and we want to
Correct.
avoid that same feeling.
Correct.
So, and we don't know why we are avoiding that same feeling, because the situation is not in our conscious mind but is deep within our subconscious mind. And our mind is programmed every second, because every second we say, okay, this is good and this is bad. And
Mm,
regularly, if we say paneer is good, paneer is good, paneer is good, paneer is good, then we will eat any sort of any crappy paneer also, because in our conscious mind, paneer is good.
mm,
So if so our mind starts reprogramming itself on a
mm-hmm,
second to second basis,
mm-hmm.
and that is the cause of these situations. And when I was able to figure that out through an internal journey and experience it on my own, I was able to unprogram my mind from that programming that had happened for many, many years.
Oh, that's very interesting because I have a similar fear, not of tomatoes, but of flying. So I have a big fear of flying, and so even a smallest bit of turbulence in the flight, and I start sweating and I start
Uh-huh.
shaking, right? So and I know that that
Yeah.
actually, and I have flown a lot in my life, right? Both domestic
Okay.
and internationally, very very long flights and all of that and etc. Despite this fear, I have done that and but I remember the very specific, so like you rightly said, that this is the subconscious part where something actually triggered something like that. I remember that I was once flying in from Bangladesh into Kolkata, from Dhaka to
Uh-huh.
Kolkata, and it was a Biman Airways flight,
Okay.
and it was very very absolutely terrible weather in
Mhm.
Kolkata. and the pilot actually tried to land thrice, and it
Okay.
just could not. And the plane was, rattling and shaking, and turbulence was so bad that we were all completely shaken. Ultimately, he did land, and it was one of the roughest landing ever. And somewhere I think it must have triggered some bit of
Mhm.
a thing in my subconscious, that now whenever there is even a
True.
slightest bit of turbulence, my subconscious feels that, oh, we will experience that kind of turbulence, right?
Yes.
So suddenly
Yes.
the body
Yeah.
reacts and responds like that. And like you rightly said, that I have had to work on it. And one interesting thing that I have started working on is today on YouTube, I watch a lot of travel geeks.
Mhm.
Okay, and they are basically and they are flying all the time, right? And they are enjoying flying, right?
Mhm.
And they face a lot of turbulence, obviously, right? And they literally actually love to live on the plane. They
Uh-huh.
reach a place, they literally turn around within a few hours, and they are on a plane again, right?
Okay.
And that is something which has helped my conscience, that if these people face a lot of turbulence all the time, but yet they want to fly again and again and again, right? Then why is it that I fear that turbulence, right? Somewhere when I now face turbulence, I think of these travel geeks, and it calms my
Yeah.
body down. So it's a brilliant experience that you told about, and that tomatoes is a very wonderful experience, story actually, which it could be in anybody's life.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is actually present in all our lives. It is just that
yes.
some of us recognize it and some of us ignore it. So, yeah,
Yes, yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
all
No, great,
this.
Siddharth. That's a great insight that you have given us. Tell me, I'm going by the insight. I'm sure, someone in your life must have given you some great advice. And we keep receiving a lot of advice from a lot of people. We keep hearing, we keep learning all the time. But sometimes there is this one piece of advice which affects us a lot, right? And that in some way defines a lot of our actions and behavior and stuff like that in the future or whatever. Do you recall any such advice, and who gave it to you? And it could be anybody. May not be your necessarily the guru or whatever. It could be your parents. It could be anybody or whatever. But if you remember that piece of advice, it'll be great to hear.
So I have a life coach, Dr. Shri Kumar Rao,
Okay.
and he regularly talks to me and guides me on various matters. I think uh, his advice on just being in the present moment and letting everything uh, happen, and everything is what is Krishna's will.
Hmm.
Just embracing that thought and living with that thought every second. I think that is something that has really changed my life and really transformed who I am as a person over many years.
So living in the moment, huh? I think a
Living
lot
in
of
the
people are in.
moment, surrendering to a supreme power, and doing your part, but finally knowing that you are in Maya, and at the end of it, you have to go back with nothing, right? So do not worrying what is not in your control, doing your part and leaving the rest to the supreme power.
Excellent. Okay, so Siddharth, you did mention about your interesting course that you did at Harvard. Before we get on to the kind of course that you did and on the online course that you did, um, tell us a little of a difference between the American education system and the Indian education system. Do you see a significant difference, very remarkable difference? Because, of course, the education system across the world is different and there is a lot to learn from everywhere. But would love to hear that you must have observed some kind of a difference, and whether that you are trying to adopt some bit of that in the education system that you are driving today.
I think there's a basic difference in both education systems. The Indian education system is grounded in a lot of values, a lot of traditions, Whereas if you look at the American education system, the Americans try to do everything with a lot of science. If they would teach values also, they would do it with a lot of research, a lot of paper writing. You know, like if you look at various concepts, somehow a lot of those concepts I feel are adaptations of Indian traditional ideologies as well,
Hmm.
right? So like if you look at mindfulness, if you look at mindfulness in schools, they are to some extent they are adaptations of some yoga practices that would happen in the Gurukul system in India.
Hmm.
Also I see that and on so I think both systems have their positives, and it is for an educator today, for a modern educator today, it is really important to bring in synergy and come together to curate a system which draws best from both the worlds. Because
Hmm.
I'm really like I really enjoy reading a lot of papers from educational research from the US, wherein they're able to break down a lot of experience of educators into theory and put that on paper for us young educators to really take from it and understand.
Hmm.
Whereas in India, if you look at we've had a lot of gurus and a lot of amazing teachers, but you would rarely find how they would teach in an educational theory, right?
Hmm.
So, and which is easy to implement at the ground level. It would be at a very philosophical level, but not very easy to implement at a ground level at for a age 6 child or for a age 7 child. Whereas if you look at the American system or at the West, you would see that a lot of educational research is very scientifically broken down, and given reasons. And when something like that happens, it's easy for a modern educator like me to really take that to our schools and implement those practices. I think that's a fundamental and I've also seen that if you look at the West, whatever endeavors they take up in education, they're always looking to back that with a lot of data. They're
Hmm.
always looking to back that with a lot of data, because what I feel that the West has started looking at schools, because they need to generate data, because they need to answer the public. The governments need to
Correct.
answer the public. Whereas in the Indian education system, it is not in that kind of a situation today. And if you look
Mm.
at historically also, the Gurukul system was very small schools wherein education was not available to everybody.
Mm.
So there are vast differences, right? But as Indian education system is also moving to the larger numbers, it's really important that we study data, we take data into consideration, we make our decisions based on data. Because earlier that was not the case, because Indian gurukuls were really small,
Correct.
right? So when you have smaller numbers, you really don't need to do a lot of surveys, keep data, right? But when you have larger numbers, then you've got to have all of these practices in place for you to be able to manage the quality and go ahead.
Interesting. So basically, that you're saying, and it's a very interesting point that you make, that whatever practices and processes that they adopt for education, it could be at any level, whether it's school, various standards, or college, or further, and etc. That the way that they do it is defined by a lot of scientific data behind it, right? And that is the reason why, one, that it become kind of more effective, and the other is that they are also able to justify to the society at large that why they are doing a particular thing if they are doing that. As
Correct.
far as our education system is concerned, there is no explanation needed to anybody. right? Or given to anybody, that why certain things are being done and etc. So it's a big difference, and I really appreciate and I really thank you for giving that insight. Where there is a significant difference, and I hope that the so. Which brings me to the next question. That for you, or let's say for India, education literally means learning, right? That you got to do a lot of rote learning for you to be called educated. So when I say education to you, what does it mean to you as an educator also? That when I say that you are imparting education to so many children, what is it that you are really doing to them? Is it that you are helping them learn more, gain more information, and etc., or is it something else?
So I'm a core believer that education should be the right blend of content and character. Right? Content is important because otherwise, how humanity has progressed, it would be lost if we don't give the right content to our students. So content is really important. But I think also character building is also really important and should be at the same level. And there has to be a right balance of content and character in schooling, right? Somehow, the new age schools, if you see, there's a lot of focus on content heaviness, on preparing children for competitive exams and all of those, somewhere in the middle of that, the character building goes for a toss.
Mhm,
That to me is not education.
mhm,
To me, education is maintaining that right blend of content and character. To me, education also is for young teenagers to understand how their mind really works. What are
mhm,
the concepts of mental chatter? How does our human body works? What is the concept of of the mind? How does the mind work? How can they harness their mind to work in the right direction? How can they know through experience, and that when they are in a very negative sort of a mood, it is those thoughts are not literally their thoughts, they are just thoughts and they will pass. If they wait, they will pass, right?
mhm,
How do we make our teenagers understand that?
mhm,
How do we make our teenagers understand that when they are teenagers, they're actually not thinking from their prefrontal cortex, which is the decisive brain. They're
mhm,
actually thinking from emotions, and which might not be the best thing for them in the long run, right?
right.
So all of that is education to me, not
Mhm.
just teaching mathematical content or literacy content, but education to me is a whole blend of all of these things.
Interesting. So, content and character, again, that's a very interesting concept that it's not just about the content, but the character comes along with it because, in some way, the future of that child and his contribution to society will be defined by both the content
Yeah.
that he has gained and the character that he has adopted. Very
A
interesting,
lot of
Siddharth.
times I ask this question to parents that,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of parents have not even thought about this question, that why are you sending a child to school? What's the
Mm-hmm.
purpose?
Mm-hmm.
आप भेज क्यों रहे हो? Are you
Mm-hmm.
sending a child to school to get a job,
Mm-hmm.
or are you sending your child to school that they can, they can be a member of society? Or why are you sending your child to school? Once you answer that question
Mm-hmm.
clearly in your mind, I
Mm-hmm.
think that is where you will be able to figure out which is the best school for my child.
So,
I think
what will be your answer as a parent to that
for
question?
like for my children, I'm sending my child to a school so that my child learns how to learn,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right? Once he or she learns how to learn, they will figure out their path in life automatically.
Okay.
That's
Interesting.
my clear thought of why I want to send my children to school.
Oh, interesting. One of the very critical aspect of our education system, at least, is examinations, right?
Yeah.
For you, what is an examination? So you also conduct exams in every standard and multiple examinations and etc. What is your core purpose, or what does an examination mean to you?
Oh, so if say right now I'm pursuing my master's in education.
Hmm.
Okay. I'm in the last leg, about 2 months. I finished my master's in education.
Oh,
And
okay.
if someone would tell me that, Siddharth, you have to write a 100-mark paper at the end of it, I
Hmm.
would not have started this journey,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So, so if it were to me, I wouldn't. So a pen and paper test might not be the best examination.
Hmm.
It is a tool. It is definitely a tool for a few people. It is a tool that they like.
Hmm.
Okay, for a few people, it is not a tool that they like.
Hmm.
Examination should be there for sure,
Hmm.
but the form of examination, uh, like there's a very interesting meme that sometimes that goes on WhatsApp regularly when exams come around. When
Hmm.
there's a elephant, and then there's a monkey, and then there's a fish, and then there's a bird, and the question is that you'll be given the highest marks if you climb the tree.
Hmm.
So the monkey runs up and climbs the tree. The elephant is just looking up. How do I climb this thing? And the fish is not even in the picture, right? So all of us in the classroom are different species.
Different.
All children are different, right? When we
Mm.
say that, but we don't really do that in our examination structure.
Mm.
So
Mm.
something that I'm a big advocate of is exams should be like a bouquet of exams.
Okay.
Ev- like there should be different types of exams that should happen throughout the year,
Ah.
such that an elephant also has an exam wherein he or she is really good at, and a kind of exam where he might not be so good at, right?
Hmm.
Similarly for the monkey and similarly for the fish. So once you have
Mm.
different types of exams, that is when it really gives you an understanding that where the child is at, where the child needs to work further, right?
Hmm.
So I think for us to be able to understand exams better, we need to uh, really understand the purpose of assessment. What's the purpose of the exam?
Yes.
Why are we taking the exam, right? Are we
Yes.
taking the exam to provide a judgment towards the child कि भाई ये बच्चा अच्छा है या नहीं अच्छा है, or
Mm.
are we taking the exam to uh, provide that what needs to be done so that the child improves?
Hmm.
Is it for formative purposes? Is it for declaring कि भाई uh, that this person is good or bad? Is it for
Hmm.
judgment,
Hmm.
right? So, or is it for learning? An exam can also be for learning, right?
Correct.
You can give me a task that, okay, Siddharth, do this task. And that could be an exam. But in that process, I can be given two, three books. I can be given internet access. While I'm doing that task, I'm researching and I'm again doing and I'm coming and researching and again doing. And at the end of the thing, I have completed the task and I have also learned new things.
Hmm. Mm.
We need to really understand what's the purpose of
So
exams.
what I hear from you is that examination should not follow one particular format, right? That it
Correct.
should have multifaceted kind of, so an examination should have a multifaceted role where it on one side it is actually trying to find out that what is the kind of learning that you have had. The second
Yeah,
is that you could actually give them a format of exam where they understand the knowledge or the that what have you understood from that. So it is not about rote learning at all, right? It is
correct.
not about that. It is about the understanding of the subject more than the rote learning of the subject and etc. And the third could be to actually find out that I may be good at something and this someone else may be good at something else. So if through these examinations, I'm able to find out my strengths and weaknesses from that perspective
Yeah,
and
so
etc.
if you look at the latest initiative of CBSE, which is the open book exams, it is
Hmm.
actually a mechanism to. I think it's a wonderful mechanism if CBSE is able to implement that. But it's a great mechanism, and it's a clear cut example of using assessments as learning. So provide the right questions, provide them with reading material, and let them solve those questions. Right, in
Hmm.
that process, they will learn.
Hmm.
They will figure out. They will apply their knowledge. Right. So
Hmm.
that
But
I
you
think
do feel that examinations are important, examinations are critical
yes.
for the entire education system, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Everybody has to be accountable. Students have to be held accountable. Teachers have to be held accountable. Administrators, school leaders have to be held accountable. And exams help in doing that.
Hmm.
But while that is the case, I'm also I'm also aware that for a lot of people, it brings in a lot of stress. So it's
Yes.
really, really important that, like the Buddha says, we should always find a middle path. So it's
Mhm.
really, really important to find that middle path in our examination structure, and try and provide what we've tried to do in our campuses is, we try and provide like throughout the year we try and have different assessment mechanisms. So we have something called as a learning expedition, wherein children work on some real world problems throughout the year, and they maintain journals. So that act as one assessment. Then they have various assignments that they do throughout the year, and that acts as one assessment mechanism.
Hmm.
Then they have some small tests that act as a assessment mechanism. Then they also maintain a portfolio file that acts as a assessment mechanism. So
Hmm.
having various types of assessments really allows every type of child to showcase his or her strengths and work on his or her weaknesses, and that is the actual purpose of exams.
Great. So that brings me actually to the next, line of discussion with you, which is on online education, right? And today we see a huge focus on that. It all start not. I would not say that it started. It was there even before 2020 in some form or the other, and etc. But 2020 and the pandemic actually forced online education or the online format of education onto people, both the educators, the parents, the children, and everybody, and etc. Post the pandemic, once the schools started reopening and etc., we saw that people didn't want to do anything with online education and they wanted to come back to the physical part of it and etc. 1 year post that, what we have started seeing, at least I have started seeing, and I would love to hear your views, is that people are now trying to look at to try to get the best of the both the worlds, right? Because there are certain benefits of the physical format of education, and then there are certain benefits of the online format of education, etc. So people have now started looking at somewhere hybrid, right? So, like you somewhere earlier also said that combining the power of the two is where we look at. What you think when I say the word online education? What is the first thought which comes to your mind when I say online education?
It has a lot of possibilities, and I think online education is there to stay. It will be an option that will be available to everybody, and and there'll be a lot of quality that needs to be improved in the online experience. And once we are able to bring that quality to the students, I think that is when we'll have more takers for online education. And I think we need to really identify with online education that what is it really well fitting with, and what is the use case that it is really really solving. I think
Mhm.
that is something that we need to still figure out. But I am a big believer in online education. It is there to stay. It is going to eventually solve a lot of problems of India as a country, as there's more widespread availability of internet in smaller towns and stable internet. I'm sure it is going to solve a lot of problems. I'm also, in some small way or the other, involved in some sort of online education with Dreamtime Learning,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's a very very interesting space to be in right now.
Tell me a little bit about this Dreamtime Learning since you mentioned that.
So it's an online school. It's an online school headed by Lena Asher,
Okay.
and I am in small part involved in that. And
Okay.
basically, at Dreamtime we are trying to bring in uh, the best educational pedagogy at
Mhm.
and making it available at a very very reasonable price to any student across India, Middle East, and making it available to them with high quality education from their home. So that is what we're looking to do at Dreamtime.
So, just now you mentioned that there are big strengths for online education because like you mentioned that somewhere for a country like India, and there are
Mhm.
absolutely far-flung areas and etc. And sometimes the brick and mortar schools, it's impossible for them to actually. School and education is not about just building a structure, infrastructure,
Correct.
and etc. that you have created a school building. The problem happens with providing access to the right content and the right teachers, right?
Correct.
Which may not, it is physically impossible that every nook and corner of the country should have access to something like that. While both you and I know that the kind of capability that you see in those students, right? Somewhere, if we are not providing them the right education and etc., it's a disservice to them because there are students who are brilliant, right? But they just haven't got the right education and etc. And online somewhere could possibly solve that situation for such kind of students to access the right content as well as the right set of teachers who can really really help them out and etc. So, apart from that, what is the biggest drawback that you see in the online education?
I think a big drawback might be, I see, because it's fairly new. Okay, so I can't really say, but it might lead. I'm not sure how, if a child does 10 years of online education, okay, and doesn't have any physical education. I don't know how will the child behave socially. I can't say,
Understood.
because I haven't
Understood.
experienced that.
Understood. So
Right.
basically,
So I think that is something which a lot of people are apprehensive of.
hmm. I think sometime back I did mention about a hybrid format that if it was a great combination of physical and online, right? That
Yeah.
there is a physical school where you're interacting with other children, there are other co-curricular activities which are happening in, etc., and you're engaging with other students and etc. That is a core part of a physical education system, right? Where you're interacting with a whole bunch of.
Also, Abhijit ji, because all of these things are really stringently governed by the government norms. So I
Hmm.
think that is also a bigger issue with
Yes,
online education, hybrid
correct.
education, because there's no clear guidelines whether you can operate in this or you cannot really operate. And that is why you don't see a lot of people working in these scenarios. Whereas hybrid is a great solution, right? Hybrid is
Yes.
a really interesting space to be in, but because there are no norms defining that or allowing or permitting that, I think nobody is working in that space
So that's a
big time.
very interesting point that you make, Siddharth. So I've had the good fortune of interacting with some people who were part of the whole NEP formulation. People who are today, so there are people now appointed by the government of India who have been trained in NEP and are now going to various education institutes across the country to educate them further on what NEP and what the potential of NEP is. Plus, I have interacted with some people, let's say at the CBSE and the other boards and etc. Somewhere what they are saying, and it's a very, very interesting thought, they are saying that today we do not want to define how you teach, right?
Mhm.
We do not want to put those restrictions on you that, oh, you are a physical educational institute, and hence this is how you are supposed to teach in a physical classroom and whatever and etc. They are saying that if you want to bring in a hybrid format, right, more than welcome to do that. Actually, they want today's educators to actually have more freeway and more freedom and the more flexibility to really do these things and etc. Where they say that we do not want to now put restrictions or limitations or rules and laws and terms and conditions on how you want to take the education forward. If you feel that apart from this whole physical thing that I'm doing, that there is an online format which will uh, create a great environment for my students, so be it. Please go ahead and implement that, and etc. Right? So I think somewhere understanding the whole thought process behind NEP and what they really want to do and open up the education system is a great thought process that I saw at some of these policy makers when I interacted with them. So they are saying to go ahead and do it. They are not restricting it. Somewhere I think what is happening at the educator side is that there is a little bit of a confusion, obviously, because it's a new policy. People are still trying to grapple with it and still trying to understand, and they still have apprehensions about it. But if you speak to these people, they are very, very open in saying that what you really want to do and etc. So I just thought that I would possibly share that with you, that they are actually giving this openness to how you want to teach. We will not define that you should teach this way or that way because you are the expert at the end of the day. Now, coming from the whole online education is the other aspect which is attached with it, which is online examinations, right? Online assessments. Again, I will ask you the same question. The moment I ask you online examinations, what is that first thought which comes to your mind? Because there's one thought which comes to my head and to the head of most of the other people, and etc. The moment you say online examinations, what is that one thought which comes in your mind?
That they might not be the most authentic way.
Yes, yes,
So yeah,
correct.
that comes to
And do you I don't know if you're aware, and I can actually talk about it even offline with you and etc. This is exactly what we do at our company, which we started, right? Which is where we realized that the credibility of an examination is foremost, right? There is no point conducting an examination where you feel that there are malpractices happening, that because it completely creates an unfair system. When you conduct an examination in a classroom and you have one invigilator or two invigilators, the purpose is that you want to give a fair playing field to every child, right? That there should be no unfair advantages or disadvantages to anybody and etc. However, we saw that happening in the online examination, right? Which is where our company actually focuses completely on that we can again, through technology and through AI and etc., what we do is that we actually can detect significantly any and every malpractice which happens, right? And we will discuss that at some other point in time and offline and etc. whenever we meet. But if online examinations are able to cater to something like this and create a credible platform, do you think that online examinations have a potential just like the online education?
yeah, why not? See, I think it's all about the trust in the users. I
Yes.
think that is the most important thing. See, when what happens is with technology, technology gets better the moment you try it, debug, and all of that, right? But in an examination setting, you don't have the opportunity to debug. The moment the first time it is not implemented in the best possible way, the trust of the system is lost. So it all depends on the implementation.
Correct, correct. So, like I said, that we will possibly discuss it in more detail when we meet, specifically, and see how and what kind of implementation that can happen. Tell me, edtech per se, right, was a big buzzword sometime back, and because of, let's say, no, I would not say the pioneer, but one of the largest brands in edtech, which is Byju's, the kind of turmoil that that brand has been through and the company has been through and etc. Do you still feel that there's a potential and a future to EdTech?
There is 100%. I think it's about actually looking at solving the core problem and sticking to that problem. Once we are able to do that, I'm sure there is I know of multiple companies in edtech who are doing amazingly well, right? And just because they're actually solving a problem, and they're not just on the valuation bubble. So if an edtech company is actually understanding the root cause of the problem in the education sector and looking to solve that gradually, I think there's always a space for that edtech company, because technology eventually eventually technology is the answer to a lot of problems in the Indian education setup, right? But it's really important. A lot of times, what happens is I meet a lot of edtech guys, but a lot of edtech guys, they, because they've taken investment and this and that, and they want to scale
They're
up
under
so
pressure.
fast, and they are in a rush for a lot of things. I think
Correct.
that is a challenge with edtech companies rather than anything else.
Understood.
Education is a tortoise. Education is a tortoise. You have to be really slow.
Understood. One last serious question before we, because we have had a lot of serious discussion till now. Tell me whether what is your opinion about India's coaching and tuition culture? Is that really helping, or has that really deteriorated the education system and per se?
So I wouldn't I wouldn't put a label on it. But see, again, if there's, if, like I said, that education is the right balance of content and character, and a lot of coaching institutes do not understand that. They are completely content heavy, and their only agenda is that exam pass karana hai.
Hmm.
If that is the only agenda, then what happens is the character building goes for a toss,
Hmm.
and then these people further on lead to malpractices and other things. So I think uh, if a coaching institute is understanding that content and character needs to be balanced in the educational system, I think it will do a great job. But if a coaching system fails to understand that and is only investing on content and making sure that in some way or the other the child should just pass an exam, I think that is just working on the surface of the iceberg and not really helping the child in any way possible.
Great. Uh, so tell me, Siddharth, when Siddharth is not educating so many children under him, what else is Siddharth doing? What else Siddharth finds fun in and enjoys doing?
I like to play a lot of sports.
Uh-huh.
I like to read quite a bit. I like to meet people. Talk about a lot of things. Traveling is something that I really like. I love visiting schools to different places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah. This is, and
Which
I spent.
which sorry, you were completing. Go ahead.
I like to spend a lot of time with students,
Uh,
talking to them, and just having a lot of dialogue with students.
Understood. Which is your favorite sport?
I like cricket. I like badminton. Yeah, both of these.
And you provide a lot of sporting facilities, I'm sure, at your schools, right?
Yes, 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 absolutely.
Including football, because that has a special place in your life and etc. But Siddharth, really, really great talking to you. It was so much, I learned so much from you. It's always a learning experience, talking to educators like you who are doing so much work and etc. Though I would have loved to spend some more time, but I think I don't want to take any further time. We have already spent an hour, and it was we didn't. I didn't even realize how fast that hour went. Um, but I would definitely, love to catch up with you in Pune sometime, or if you travel to Mumbai, would love to, chat up more with you on your thought process and how various new things can be done, what new
It
things should be done,
it
and
it
etc.
was a great experience to be with you, Abhijit ji. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot, Siddharth, and hope to see you soon. Yeah.
Yes. Take care. Thank you. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Thank you, Siddharth. Bye bye.